everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to announce major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over our favorite moments from the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. So if you haven't watched that movie yet, you may want to pause this video, head to your local theaters. I so recommend that. And then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down our favorite moments from the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Hello.
Hello!
Hey, it's here. It's finally happened. We did it.
Oh, man. It was, I got everything I wanted. I didn't even know how to, I couldn't even express when I left the theaters with the group that I went with. I didn't spoil it for anybody after the movie, but, the group that I went with, I was just I don't know how to react right now. I don't know how to say.
You're on cloud nine.
Yeah, I was I don't know how to express how happy I am with what I got. It was awesome. And I have to immediately add this. I can no longer pick up a pen, a small knife, a fork, a spoon, whatever, without going, baby knife. It's just that's living rent free in my head for months now. That is going to just live rent free in my head moving forward. The amount of times that they did it, I just felt was perfect and it worked for me, and I giggled every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And now, yeah, that's just I hear Deadpool's voice in my head every time I pick something up now. Just baby knife.
Nice.
But yeah, just kicking this off immediately, I have to kick it off, the opening scene. In true Deadpool fashion, just like the first two movies, we are thrust right into an action scene with no explanation of what's happening, but amped up by 11 because we quickly find out that, not only are the rumors that they weren't going to step on, the ending of Logan, they're not going to tarnish anything that happened.
And I heard rumors. They flat out told us that's what they weren't going to do that, and they just lied to our faces.
It completely desecrates Logan's body by digging him up and then fighting with all of his adamantium bones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the adamantium bones were nasty.
Oh,
the whole skeleton, the way the skeleton looked was really cool, though.
Yeah, it was perfect. Also, I just love right before the battle starts, he turns to the skeleton and he goes, "Well, I guess we're getting that team up after all."
Yeah.
And all choreographed to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. It was perfect.
Yeah, quite an opening sequence.
It was a perfect opening sequence. I think it was perfect for in-universe Deadpool joke where they literally went, "I know we said we weren't going to ruin this. Here you go." Now we're just, not only are we making, light of it with the Logan impaled music box, now we're just amping it up. We're making it even worse.
Yeah. I miss them doing the whole making fun of the crew and the text though. So I was oh, that's kind of one thing, one element I was kind of missing there. But I was also it's a different, it's Deadpool in a different world. So I'm gonna understand similarities are gonna be taken. And I was okay, I'm fine with that because they're still doing some stuff that we haven't seen before, which I thought was really fun.
Right. And I immediately realized that when he throws the first piece of bone and you see an actual name and stuff like that. I realized that really quick, but I was you know what? That's okay. That's okay. I'm fine with that.
The action itself kind of replaces the absurdity of the whole opening sequence to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think it was, and it just kind of exactly like the first two Deadpool movies. We get, thrown right into action. Then we get a flashback that explains the action. Then we go right back into the scene of the action. And yeah, and it sets the tone for the rest of the movie that it's going to be completely you don't have to worry that this is a Disney R movie. Like, you don't have to worry about anything because we are desecrating a dead body of, like a perfectly ended movie that we said we weren't going to make fun of. Like, immediately we're like, okay, this is going to be a rated R movie. Like, you're fine. Like, you don't have anything to worry about Disney ruining this character or anything like that. This is going to be a Deadpool movie. But yeah, there's so much I want to talk about. And what's great about this movie is so much was packed into this movie. So many little jokes, so many cameos, so many everything that it was like, I even asked you, I was like, are you sure you want to like react to it immediately? Because I was like, I got home and decompressed for a couple of hours. Then I was still, when I woke up the next day, thinking about everything that had happened and just kind of, remembering certain parts that weren't like the first things that I remembered or first things that I wanted to talk about and stuff like that. And just kind of like, I already want to see it again. Like, type of thing.
It's a movie that definitely, I think, requires multiple viewings just to kind of soak everything in. Because if you're too busy being kind of reeling off of a moment that just happened, you might kind of mentally gloss over a moment that you're kind of seeing in the present. So it's just there's a lot in this movie for sure.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before we started recording. We both got really lucky. We had really good, movie audiences, basically, because that can make or break a movie. Like, if you have somebody who just wants to be a dick and like loudly laugh or comment about certain things that are happening,
or a dead crowd too. Yeah,
I mean that can make or break a movie. That's why, like, some of the best movie experiences I've had where you really have the crowds there. They're really present. They're laughing at the parts that they should be laughing at. And they're like going, oh shit, to like, the big moments and stuff like that. We got really lucky with this. Like, both had really good crowds. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions to Deadpool and Wolverine?
This is a movie's a wild ride from beginning to end, and I think it delivers on pretty much all aspects. I think it's not a perfect movie by any means, but I don't think it needs to be a perfect movie. But it just has to be a fun ride all the way through, and I think it excels at that perfectly. It's very much like a No Way Home of the Fox universe, and kind of meets like a multiverse of madness aspect to it too. It kind of takes elements of those movies and kind of just puts its own Deadpool spin on them, right? And especially seeing these two characters together on screen for the first, like in their true form for the first time, I would say, because we've seen them on screen together, but they acknowledge that's just not the version that we wanted to see. This is really what we wanted to see when we wanted to see these characters together. And I think like from the opening frame of the movie, like I said, or like you said, as soon as they start desecrating the body of Logan, you're just like, oh my god, they went there, and I had a big grin on my face pretty much the whole way through after that. There's a lot of jokes in there. The jokes through all the way through are just really great, whether it's like the small dialogue jokes, the big jokes that are set up, even some of like the subtle ones they throw in there that just kind of happen in an instant. I think at times there's a few there I'm like, man, that's gonna go over a lot of people's head, but if you really know like that joke, you're gonna really enjoy it. So I think there's something in there for everyone to enjoy. It's just a really good time overall, and I think I think it's a good movie that's kind of like in its own pocket, and it doesn't really. I think it sets things up for sure, and I think, but it's also something that's like, okay, we're kind of like we're kind of dealing with our own contained thing here, but what happens from here is kind of still open in the air, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the best we could hope for too, because I mean, if they really, had a lot of real MCU characters or MCU characters we know are going to be taking shape in the near future, they kind of would write stuff into a box type of thing. So it's like leaving it like the way they did it, leaving it very open-ended and kind of only, interacting mostly with, Fox Marvel characters and stuff like that, really did, leave things in a good place to kind of, use these characters anytime they want to, refer to these events at some point. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was a really good way that they actually were able to do that.
Yeah, you're breaking boundaries by just having these two characters in an MCU world / story, and we get. I think the only real like MCU character besides like the TVA characters that we see them interact with is Happy. Is Deadpool and Happy at the beginning of the movie. We don't really see many other like actual MCU born heroes within this movie, so I think that's very interesting. Other than the funny Thor can be little like thing in the background. But even then, that's just kind of like repurposed footage. But I think it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we kind of broke ground here, but we're still leaving you wanting more.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, as all I feel like Deadpool movies have in the past, leaving you wanting more. Yeah, I really hope we get, more from both of these characters. But you want to get to some big takeaways?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna kick up big takeaways, and the only thing I could possibly think of to talk about in big takeaways is there were so many incredible cameos in this movie, which we knew we were getting. There were rumors online, there were real leaks, fake leaks, there were leaks online everywhere for cameos. Like, you really had to try to stay away from stuff. And we kind of talked about this. We both kind of tried our best to go leak blackout and stuff like that. We didn't even look up the fake leaks that Marvel went on record saying that they released fake leaks just to kind of mix in with the real stuff.
At this point, you heard it all. At this point, when it comes to theorizing, whether you're talking with friends or if you watch other YouTube content as well, everyone's got their ideas of what they want too. So it's just a matter of like, okay, I know what all the possibilities that are out there, but I never heard anything that was actually confirmed, which was always the main thing. I never want to hear like that. Okay, this is what I heard in a leak or anything like that. Like that was always the one thing I always try to stray away from.
Exactly. And so I even, like I said, I went with a group and we met up before the movie and we went around the table and said, the no wrong answers. What is a cameo you would really like to see ahead of the movie? Not basing it off of leaks, not basing it off of anything. Just like, what would you like to see? And I told it to you long before I told it to that group. So and I think in one of our
recaps.
Yeah, in one of our recaps, I definitely said it. And I'm not talking about, Quicksilver. I'm not talking about Evan's Quicksilver. I'm not talking about him, even though we got a reference to him. But
I did.
Not talking about him. I am talking about I wanted to see a cameo from Chris Evans really badly. But I also said, how funny would it be if this whole time, because the very first teaser, we have Deadpool, saluting to the MCU Captain America, Chris Evans. How funny would it be if we get Chris Evans in the movie, but he's not Captain America, he's the Human Torch? And the second that we saw him on screen, I said it to that group before we even went to the movie theater. The second he came on screen and you see, blue underneath his cloak, you see a little bit of red, so everybody's still thinking it could be Cap. And he goes, say the line. He's going to say the line. He's going to say the line. And he goes, flame on. I was like, that's what I wanted. I got everything I wanted. But for me, there were incredible cameos. I think everybody has their favorite cameos. I mean, even the really quick ones that happened, like Hulk and stuff like that, incredible.
Oh, man.
I'm not diminishing any of the cameos. I think every single one of them was awesome. But for me, this was my perfect cameo. This is exactly what I wanted. This is the exact joke I wanted. This is everything I wanted from this cameo itself. And I got it. As soon as that happened, I was like, I don't care who else is in the movie. This is perfect for me. And it happened really early on too. It happened before some of the more incredible cameos, you could argue and say harder to get cameos, I guess. And we'll get more into those and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, it was just perfect. Rico, what were some of your big takeaways from Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, that was really well done. I was telling you before that I was like, I knew immediately it was Johnny Storm just because I was like, there's no way they're gonna put a void Cap in there. But I thought it would have been funny if Deadpool had noticed that he looked like Cap and he'd actually been Steve or something. Happy, oh my God, it's Cap. And then when he'd be like, it's not Cap when he saw him turn into fire. So that would be funny. But yeah, that whole this is really kind of the multiverse of madness aspect of the movie for me that I really enjoyed. First off was really the Wolverine montage. I thought was really fantastic. Especially just the way it begins with the way Deadpool jumps through the portal over the TVA guy and takes his mug. I just thought that little dynamic between those two guys was just really funny to begin with. But then we start going through all these different versions of Wolverine that are all from the comics too, which is really cool. We get an Age of Apocalypse version of him, which really looks awesome. He beats the crap out of Deadpool, of course. A lot of these guys beat the crap out of Deadpool, except for one of my favorite shots of the entire movie is actually the one where it's all the red skulls and Wolverine's kind of just being crucified on the giant X in the middle of this apocalyptic the skull land basically, and that's based off an iconic Chris Chris Claremont cover as well. So I thought that was really cool. Like that they're doing like these really deep cut comic references. Of course, doing the yellow and brown suit with the Hulk fight, which I thought was really awesome as well. And then of course the biggest surprises for me was seeing the Henry Cavill version of Wolverine, Cavalrine, I think as they called it. Yeah. So I really love that. And but I was also, it was kind of like a bittersweet thing because I was also like, oh man, does this mean that we're not going to get Cavill in like a different MCU role? Because I've been really hoping to kind of see him as Doom. To be honest, I think he'd be a really fantastic Doom. Yeah. If not Captain Britain, that's another one I've always heard thrown around for him. But yeah, I think that was a really fun cameo. The way they just kind of threw in some of these stars was just really, really awesome. And then the other kind of like multiverse of madness moment for me is kind of like when Strange meets the Illuminati and we get those great cameos. We kind of get that moment in this movie as well, when we get the kind of like the Void Resistance members that is led by, I don't know if it's led by Laura, I'm imagining, but it's Laura, X-23, of course, Electro Nachios, which is a really cool callback back to the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. Yep. I was saying I really wanted to see Ben Affleck's Daredevil as well, but at least we get a reference to him. He unfortunately he been killed. And then also like a character like Thomas Jane's Punisher, which I would have loved to see, and also reference to, I think, or imagine that was the Punisher that got referenced. So I really like that. But we also get Channing Tatum as Gambit, which was probably my second biggest surprise, was seeing him in the comic accurate suit. I really liked it. I just thought, and of course the Cajun accent, which was made fun of throughout the movie. And I just, one of my favorite lines when he goes, "Who's your dialect coach? The Minions?" I just thought that was really funny. That got one of the bigger laughs in my theater, if I remember correctly. But seeing his powers on display was really cool. And then of course the other big kind of surprise for people was of course Wesley Snipes' Blade. Especially with all like the hoopla around Blade, the behind the scenes right now, the development hell of the movie for the MCU. Just kind of getting to see the old school character actor come back as the character was really awesome. But I'd also love that we get that little tongue-in-cheek moment where he goes, "I'm the only Blade there'll ever be," and then Devil just kind of looks at the camera like, "Yeah, okay." So yeah, so I just love that this movie is really just like a massive love letter to all the Fox movies. It's not punching down necessarily on these movies. It's really a true like kind of goodbye to this universe, and I really appreciate that. I think it makes great use of like variants of other characters from those. It did a great job mixing the characters from the other Fox movies as well. I think another thing we were talking about is like I do wish we gotten some Ghost Rider in there as well. I think a Ghost Rider cameo would have been really sick. But again, things that we wish we could have seen aren't necessarily taken away from the movie itself. But I think like because the movie has a great amount of heart.
It does,
and I think it balances it out pretty well. I would like to see in some moments that like I think there were some moments that had a lot of heart that was sometimes would get undercut by a joke sometimes, which is for Deadpool movie it's okay, but I think we could have like sometimes they could have really leaned into that a little bit more. But really the moment that got me, and this always gets me in movies like this, is in the end, at the end credits during the credits, you get all the B-roll footage of all the old movies when they were shooting and make those movies. You see all the fun they had making those. And just like, man, if you grew up watching those movies, it's just like this really felt like them just giving that last little like cherry on top of the final part of the universe, right? And then of course, like putting it to the Green Day song, which is even more like tugging at the heartstrings. It's a funny comparison to me is actually I think it was the third Jackass movie. At the end of the movie, they do a kind of like a montage of all the guys when they were younger and kind of seeing like their development from the show to like all the fame they got from Jackass. And it's to Weezer's Memories, and it's just one of those things when you do something like that and you trigger like a good song like that, it's gonna hit you at your core a little bit. So I thought that was it kind of like reminded me of that a little bit, and it's just kind of like, wow, that was really cool they did that. It just shows like a lot of like the respect that they have for the past movies. So yeah, it was a really cool thing. They kind of like just showed that overall respect to the Fox universe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going through it now. The montage with all the Wolverines and stuff like that. I love the height accurate Wolverine when he jumps off of
that was another great one. Yeah, parts. I was kind of hoping we were gonna get a Daniel Radcliffe cameo out of that too. I heard some people thinking that he was possibly gonna be like the patch version. The one
that was one of the rumors.
That would have been pretty cool. And then we didn't even talk about all the different Deadpool variants as well.
Yep.
I mean, Matthew McConaughey was voicing the cowboy Deadpool, which is pretty wild. Like, I remember when I heard him speak, I'm like, that sounded crazy. Yeah. And his kids, Kid Pool and Baby Deadpool, and we can't forget Nice Pool, who might have been my personal favorite of the entire movie, and the unexpected favorite for me, probably. I think just the way he interacted with them, and it's just kind of like, it's seeing Ryan interact with Ryan, but it's just like super Canadian Ryan. And then we were also saying before we recorded, I think one of my favorite jokes in the entire movie was just when he looks over and just says the proposal. And I got one of the biggest laughs of the entire theater for me. There's so much you can go over from this movie that we love.
Yeah. I love Dogpool. I love how
the relationship with Dogpool is very
Deadpool
funny.
Kept wanting to take him away, type of thing.
Using Nice Pool as a human meat shield, and just like, I'm gonna stand here for a little bit.
I'm catching my breath. How fast do you regenerate?
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And then I'll never hear Like a Prayer the same ever again after that amazing action scene. And then afterwards they wrap it up with like, they all regenerate.
But yeah, also with the Wesley Snipes Blade, we got his crazy catchphrase in there too.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Ice skate uphill? Yeah, I love that. They kind of shoehorned that little.
They just had him throw that one in.
Yeah.
So.
I would have liked them to show a little bit more of Elektra in the action department. I think given they came in for quick cameos, so it's not that they had like a bunch of training and choreography to go through, but it would have been really cool to kind of see them kind of go all out with like gory fight scenes as well. They are slicing people up for sure, but it's a lot of close-up shots because of course Wesley Snipes is a little up there in age as well. He's not the young martial arts they used to be. And of course, Elektra hasn't been in this type of role, I think, in a long time as well. I think it was easier to get away with the Gambit too because his character is a more effects driven. But he had some pretty cool choreography as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I feel like they did that on purpose because it's like if you want to see, Blade and Elektra, go watch their movies. But Gambit never had a chance to do a movie, so we're gonna let him do like some really cool action scenes to like kind of be like, well, this is what it could have been, like you know what I mean? Like
I love the inside joke where he's like, I think I was born here in the void because his movie never got made, so he never really had an origin. So yeah, those little tongue-in-cheek jokes are just the best to me.
Yeah, there's so many. Like we can honestly like talk about this for an hour and still not cover absolutely everything.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the mark of a successful movie. I feel like there's so much to talk about it, and there's so much to enjoy about it. Like just like you said, the cameos we didn't take away one bit from the cameos we did or from the movie that we got, type of thing. And that really speaks volumes about this movie in general. Is that we all kind of had expectations going in, realistic or not, and still blew away the expectations like with this movie, type of thing. Do you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay, so I mean, where we go from here, I feel like it feels pretty obvious to me at this point. I think we're gonna see Deadpool and Wolverine at least one more time in the suits in Secret Wars. I imagine, like we were saying earlier, this was like, we got to see them kind of saying goodbye to all the past Fox characters and kind of interacting with a couple MCU characters like Happy and B-15 and the TVA and stuff like that. But really, when B-15 tells them, like, I have a feeling like, your job's not done. I think it's essentially like, or your work's just getting started. I think that's like, obviously the kickoff point to them being brought into Secret Wars at some point. I think, obviously the running joke with, Thor and Deadpool and him constantly, why was Thor crying?
Bring up that screen.
Yeah. I think an interesting aspect of this now, because, Loki is the god of stories and this whole thing of like, Paradox's whole thing is like, they're like, they're kind of doing their own thing and they don't get along with, or they don't agree with the new management of the TVA, whether if they don't even know who it is. And really, we're probably assuming that he's talking about like B-15, like a higher up of his, but he could be talking about Loki. Like that's kind of like the whole point of that, right? But there's all those times where Deadpool's waking up and he's making like Thor references at some point. It'd be kind of cool if like that was kind of Loki's way of trying to get in communication with someone like Deadpool, and that would be kind of like the way that he brings those two into Secret Wars, because I've been trying to get into your mind and putting you into my place, like like in Thor 2, like when I was supposedly dying, and that's where Thor's crying over you and stuff like that. But I just wonder if that's kind of like, because I think the next step is seeing Deadpool and Wolverine interacting with characters like Loki, or like just those other MCU characters, because I think that's what we want to see, like how those characters would react to those two, and just just kind of like the banter that could supposedly happen from quick-witted actors like that too. So yeah, I think that's just like that. It has all the makings of a perfect kind of a recipe right there. Like you bring in Deadpool and Wolverine for a movie like Secret Wars. You let them have fun with all types of different characters. You can put Wolverine in different types of team up scenarios with other Avengers as well. Yeah, and it'd be just kind of a good way to kind of, especially one last hurrah, especially for Hugh Jackman, even though we were expecting all the way back with Logan, but I think really like this has kind of rejuvenated him a little bit, and I think he's willing to probably do one more, especially if he's not like leading an entire marketing campaign like this. I think now that like they've kind of got the heavy lifting off their shoulders, they can kind of have more fun with it if they choose to. I think that's also kind of the cool thing about this too, is this feels like a good wrap up for the characters if they don't want to. Especially like Deadpool's story, I feel like the way his story kind of wraps up in this, it does feel like yeah, he's gonna be okay. He's starting to do those little he's planting those seeds to kind of grow as a person, to grow in that relationship with oh my gosh, I'm forgetting Vanessa again. Yeah. So that's kind of like leading to a bright future for him. So it's like what more could you do with this character after 3 movies maybe? But it's that big team up movies like this. So I think this is a good chance to kind of throw them in there for like okay, you don't have to go full time, you can go part time now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I already told you, I mean, one team up that I would really like to see from Deadpool before, Ryan Reynolds calls it quits. And obviously I think our biggest expectation is to see both these two characters in Secret Wars, maybe even Avengers 5, depending if that starts whatever happens in Secret Wars, like if it ends up being like a Infinity War Endgame situation where it's like
or Secret Wars 1 and 2.
Yeah, something like that. But I gotta say, I would love to see Deadpool show up in a Spider-Man movie, have him opposite Tom Holland. Like I think that would be funny. And just the meta references that we could get where Deadpool's like, wait a minute, you're a lot younger than the other Spider-Man that I met. Like, you know what I mean? Just have him call him back to like Toby and Andrew Garfield. Like, I think that would be hilarious. I think that would work, and not, make it a full Deadpool movie, but just have him, be in, if we could have him be in anybody else's movie, I think that would be that, instead of like a huge ensemble cast with like Avengers or Secret Wars or something like that. Having him in somebody else's movie, that's the movie I would like to see. The pair up that I would really like to see. And
what I loved sorry to interrupt. What I loved about the Johnny Storm cameo too is that I kind of did wish it was Cap a little bit, because it would have reminded me of one of my favorite Deadpool comics, which is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where it's just like a trio team up of Deadpool, Wolverine, and Captain America. So it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I thought that, I think that almost kind of felt like a little nod to me, like there too, seeing those 3 characters together. So I was like, I would really love to see Deadpool interacting with like Steve as Cap though too as well. And then because I met a guy who looks just like you, but he turned to fire.
You're gonna have to send me that comic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought it was one that I sent you, but it might not have been.
No, I don't think I got that one. But yeah,
yeah, that's a really great one. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, now I'm definitely interested. But speaking of,
I think Brian Posehn wrote it.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah.
Very cool. Now I'm very interested. I want to after we're done recording. Now I'm interested. But speaking of Chris Evans and Human Torch / Captain America, so we got the really heartfelt, mid-credit or while the credits were going, B-roll footage of all the past Fox Marvel stuff. But then we got a post-credit scene that I didn't think I needed in my life, but now I can't ever think about the movie without it there.
Yeah, this is how you do like a joke post-credit scene that's like worth it, because they've done some really bad ones, like like Ant-Man 2. I would think when you just have Anthony playing drums or whatever. Yeah. Like don't make me stay in this credits. But this is what I want to stay in the credits for.
So we have spoiler alert. Obviously, if you've gotten through this video, hopefully either you saw the movie or you don't care about things getting spoiled. But the way that Deadpool ends up getting the Human Torch killed is by basically talking shit and saying that, Chris Evans, Human Torch, Johnny Storm said all of this stuff. And Wolverine is the whole time going, he didn't say, like, what the and so that ends up getting Johnny Storm killed very quickly and very, horrifying death. Having the skin ripped off of him, and then he just collapses on the ground with all his organs and bones.
That was brutal.
Oh.
Fantastic Four getting some brutal deaths in post Infinity War MCU.
right.
Post Endgame.
But then we see, the post credit scene is of them, earlier in the movie when they got captured and they're going to Cassandra Nova's fortress, and we really have Chris Evans saying exactly what Deadpool said that he said.
Yeah, that's language, Cap.
Oh, it's perfect. And then I just love it. He says one thing that Deadpool didn't say, and it was Juggernauts.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I couldn't exactly remember which one was kind of omitted at that point, but I was just like, I like the way it just takes a whole different spin on that scene now when you rewatch it, because now you have that context. Like, no, at first, because you're watching it thinking like, damn, he's just really like throwing him under the bus, and just like that's like showing the moral gray area of Deadpool, but then you're just like, no, he just totally snitched on him, and it's not even that you threw him under the bus and lied, you just totally snitched on him. Like, dang,
he threw him under the bus, but he wasn't lying at all.
Yeah, like, it wasn't. He didn't just make it up. He was just like, no, this is what he said.
So, just like you said, I think that was a perfect ending scene. I loved.
And getting to see Captain America or Chris Evans, but the guy that we know as Cap, who's known for being like, don't you say bad words, and he's like, oh my gosh, he just said some of the naughtiest things I think I've ever heard him say ever.
And I think it worked so well because we did have that heartfelt B-roll footage where everybody was like, feeling the emotion of like, oh my God, we really went through all of these years of, all of these people playing these characters and stuff like that. And then we get to that, and that is the last taste in our mouth. Like, I think it worked perfectly because of that. And it's the perfect, those two scenes or those two moments at the end perfectly, describe the movie as a whole. Like you said, has a ton of heart and then has just crazy jokes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So like those two are like the perfect encapsulation of the movie itself, having like them play off of each other like that. And I was just, this is.
I mean, didn't mention like the action in this movie is taking the MCU to a whole new level. Just like, boringness alone. The fights between Wolverine and Deadpool alone are fantastic. But yeah, like again, like I said earlier, I'll never hear like a prayer the same way again. I just like seeing that because we kept seeing that shot in the trailer, them walking down in New York, and that whole set kind of felt voidy, but I guess it just turned out it was just like their version of New York, which I thought was really cool. But we never got to see the ending of that shot, which was getting to see Wolverine pull the cowl over his head, which was just like when that happened, that was like that got some woos in my crowd for sure. And just one getting to see him just kind of and seeing the eyes move with the cowl the same way as Deadpool too, like just seeing that in superhero movies too. Like I just remember thinking that with like a Batman or something like that, when you see like the animated series and they'd always like move the eyes with like the whiteness and that. I always loved that stuff. So and I just like the way they fully committed to this with that, and yeah, it really felt like a full circle moment. And like Deadpool said, that only took 20 years.
That gave me chills, like that part of the scene, and then especially when they made the pose,
too, like that, because they made the suit part of the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. Oh man, I already just talking about it with you makes me want to go see it just immediately. It's almost like I want to like end the recording and be like, you want to go see like afternoon, evening showing? Like let's just go. Let's just go right now.
Absolutely.
But there's so much more we could talk about with this movie. We might have to do a part 2, like when this comes to like digital release. We can rewatch it and just be like, here's the other stuff that we wanted to talk about, but like we didn't get a chance to like overanalyze the movie again and talk about like all of these other things. Maybe we just do. We'll call it like a revisit type of thing. But it's just so much fun.
It'll be the earliest retro recap ever.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's why we wouldn't call it a retro recap. We'll call it like a revisiting or something like that. But anyway, as we always say,
let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of Deadpool and Wolverine, and what was your favorite cameo? There are no wrong answers. Everybody had their one that they were hoping for the most, and the one that was like the craziest, shocking one for you. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.